What's going on, guys? This is Uche and Joker, Sneaker Principal. And in this video, I'm going to share with you 6 transferable skills that teachers have that are priceless in making a transition into education technology, careers, jobs, So I often get messages from people asking me, how did you do it? How did you transition from education? I was a teacher, dean, assistant principal for 17 years in New York City schools, into the education technology space. And my thing was, I had the skills to make that happen. And people are arguing with me like, wait a minute, no, that's not necessarily true. Maybe it's because you knew people. Maybe it's because, you were a principal. And I beg to differ. And thankfully, I came across an article that was literally saying what I was already thinking and believing was fact. And this article is titled Transitioning from Teaching to EdTech by, please forgive me for butchering your name, Maricinda Alatorre. So this is an article on LinkedIn I came across, and she shares six transferable skills, and every single one of those 6 skills, I swear to you, I've been talking about in one shape or another with friends of mine who are inquiring about my transition into the education technology space. So here they go. I'm going to tell you the 6 skills and make a connection to how, these things happen in schools on a daily basis. The first thing is project and program management. So check this out. Any classroom teacher who's teaching a classroom of students, if you're a department head, you're running a department of teachers. If you're an assistant principal, you're running operations or you're running instructional supports. If you're a principal running a whole entire school, you have projects every day. Teaching a class for a year or semester is a project. You have a beginning, you have a middle, you have an end, you have benchmarks, you're collecting data throughout the whole entire time. And of course, the end result is supposed to be success, right? Successful completion, where you can actually show what that goals were met, that were established at the beginning. These are projects. These are things that happen in the business world, especially in educational technology companies. Number 2, data collection and analysis. Connecting back to the first one, project management, program management. Again, you were collecting data throughout the whole entire time. What is a great book but data collection? How students are performing on tests, performance in the classroom, attendance, and all these other things. And we take that data, we analyze them to make instructional decisions or to establish instructional supports for our kids, right? And also be able to really formulate what direction the school is going as a collective, right? Same thing with companies. We're looking at data to measure our product, to measure our customer satisfaction, and things of that nature, to also figure out how do we improve what we're doing. Managing ambiguity. Number 3, managing ambiguity. Let's be honest here. If you're a teacher working in any school, you've never been in that space where you're just like, okay, I'm not quite sure why this is happening or what's happening here, or I don't quite agree with this, and I just have to kind of like ride with it and put the system into play and see what happens. That's part of business. That is part of any industry you go into. There's always going to be those ambiguous moments that you have to be able to manage your expectations and also work within the system for growth, right? Happens in the school all the time. Happens outside the school building as well, in the ed technology industry and other industries as well. Number 4, resource management. Do I even really talk about this? As a teacher, I remember, coming out of pocket in the school year and hoping that I'll be reimbursed, or even hoping that there'll be some money set aside for set up my classroom, for field trips, things of that nature. And I was fortunate. I had principals who would say, hey, here's your budget for $500 for the year or for the semester, whatever the case may be. And I had to manage that. I had to maximize that for all my students. Then as an assistant principal and the principal, I had a budget and I had to manage and make sure the monies or the resources, whether they were financial or they were supports, they were voluntary, whatever the case may be, went into the school in the right way to support every child. And if there's specific resources, how they support those specific spaces in the school that need to be supported. And that's also a big part of business. You have resources, you have budgets they have to manage. And if you're in schools, guess what? You do it all the time. Cross-functional collaboration. Vertical teams, horizontal teams, right? Okay. vertical teams, if you're talking about which could be easily grade teams where you have the math teacher, the ELA teacher, the social studies teacher, ELA English teacher, PE teacher, whoever else, and you have to work together across subject areas, right? So, for example, a lot of schools will say, "Hey, we need a literacy program that spans across all the subjects within a grade." All those teachers have to work together. What are those common unit plans that maybe 2 or 3 teachers are working together so that that subject is that topic or that theme is alive in math, in science, in ELA, and social studies. Okay, that is that cross functional collaboration, and we see the same thing in subject areas. Yes, I might teach geometry, you might teach algebra, you might teach this person here might teach algebra too, but there are certain skills that the preceding teacher has to ensure that it is happening and it's mastered so that kids can be successful in the next subject area. And how do you know if you're being successful if your other team members are not saying, "Hey, I just noticed that these kids coming to me are slipping in these areas. How do we create those systems in place to make sure our kids, as they move through the content, are mastering so they can be more successful in the next space?" Again, that is cross-functional collaboration. And we do that outside the classroom as well, in other spaces with community organizations and with the district. Okay, and then lastly, but definitely not least, user experience research and relationship building. Schools do not survive if you don't have a strong culture, okay, and just within itself. But also schools do not survive if they don't have a strong culture and user experience for the students, for the parents, for the teachers themselves, even the administration, and for the community. Because we often think schooling only happens within the building. The way school is run and how they connect to the community affects the community as well. Okay, listen, do you work for a school where the community complains about your school all the time? That tells me that there isn't a strong user experience, that allows for the school to really shine and for people who are involved with the school to really adhere to the mission, vision, and let that be expressed to other community, to uplift the community. So and that user experience requires research. I every year would go through the student service, the parent service from the previous years to ask myself, what do we need to really work on? Every school in New York City has to do a CEP, a comprehensive educational plan. A big part of that is doing research and saying, okay, these are our goals based on data and based on research and how we're going to improve the user experience for all our stakeholders. And that also leads to establishing amazing relationships for those who are involved within the community. So those are the 6 transferable skills for teachers or from teaching that speaks to ed tech or education technology and other industries. So please stop telling yourself that all I can do is just do this. And of course, I'm not here saying, hey, everybody should leave teaching. But if you're in a space where you're wondering about more and how can I really expand myself as well, there are other industries that supports education, and I chose education technology. I could have gone to other spaces, but I'm an educator, and that's where my heart's at. And now I get to work with a company that now works with districts and schools across the city of New York and beyond to ensure that children are receiving the best academic supports and services. And it's just an extension of who I already am. So, and I believe a lot of teachers want to stay still close to education. There's other spaces out there. So I hope this has helped you out. Do me a favor, share this video, like, subscribe to the Sneaker Principal channel here on YouTube. And do me a favor, if it's here or here, whichever video it is, watch this next video, because again, I put out content all the time that in support of teachers and education and pushing out thinking and how we can improve the system and ourselves as well. So with that being said, have an amazing day. Talk to you all soon, all right? Peace.